Hello and welcome back to another XeroLinux video. Today will be something new. I've never done this before, so I don't know how I'll handle this, but I'll do my best. So in today's video, it will be an A.M.A. If you don't know what A.M.A is, it means ask me anything. I created a thread on Discord and asked people to ask me a few questions, which I collected. Well, there weren't many questions. There were a total of 8. There are 2 that I cannot answer just because I know nothing about. So I collected the other 6, the remaining 6, and I'm gonna answer them in this video. But before I start, don't forget to like the video in case you like it. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and light up the comments, of course. If you want to ask me other questions for a follow-up video, feel free to do that in the comments below. Be aware though, if you are trolling, if you want to troll, your comments or questions, trolly questions, will be deleted. Don't say you weren't warned. I'm not gonna deal with troll crap. That's a waste of my time. All right, with that out of the way, let's begin with the first question. The question is, and I will put the question in the lower third in post so you can read it, but the first question is, what is the general goal of XeroLinux? Is it meant for a pure vanilla Arch replacement, for general use that is ready to go like what CachyOS is, a learning distro for teaching people about Arch Linux and how it works, like what ArcoLinux used to be, or some combination of both? Well, how can I describe XeroLinux? I would say it's a combination of both. Not really to replace Arch Linux, but to be an option next to Arch Linux, as well as a way to learn how to use Arch while being easier for the newcomer. So what I mean by that is XeroLinux is not here to replace Arch Linux. Arch Linux is amazing. You can build your own OS your way without having to deal with any bloat or any other people's decisions. So XeroLinux is here to follow that philosophy without adding too much bloat. Like, I don't include anything on XeroLinux. XeroLinux does not have anything out of the box except what KDE offers, because XeroLinux has chosen KDE as its desktop environment of choice while making it look good, and that's it, and providing the necessary tools for an easy onboarding experience. But I don't make any decisions for you. I will never make any decisions for you. I will not decide what Office suite to include, what video editor to include, and so on and so forth. So it's up to you to make these decisions. So XeroLinux is just that, an easier way to adopt Arch Linux, and you go from there, you learn. I'm not here to teach you like ArcoLinux does, because he's still doing it to this day. ArcoLinux no longer exists as a distro, but he still makes videos teaching people how to create their own flavors of Arch. So I don't teach because there's so much for me still to learn. I will just learn them myself, apply them on XeroLinux, and the rest is up to you, right? So it's up to you if you want to learn. If you don't want to learn, you can use XeroLinux as is. But the problem with that is I'm not going to do the learning for you. I'm not going to learn how to do such and such on such and such hardware because I don't own the hardware. I cannot test and tell you, yes, that's the solution. I can't tell you, yes, that's the solution, because I don't have the hardware to test on. So it's up to you to learn. I give you a solid base to start, and then it's like a mother bird. It throws its little chicks from the tree and lets them figure out how to fly on their own. Once you install XeroLinux, the rest is on you. That's the only way I can describe it. Question number 2. What's the origin story of XeroLinux? I'm curious about what inspired you to take the leap from being a user to being a distro maintainer. Good question. Love that question. What converted me from a user to a maintainer is the same as it is for a lot of users out there. The need for something that satisfies my needs without forcing me to remove what I do not use nor need, which doesn't exist out there. There's no distro that satisfies those needs for me. I tried a lot of them. I didn't distro hop as much as others, maybe 6 or 7 distros, but that's it. I was convinced that there is no such distro out there. I fell in love with KDE, but every distro that that offered it did so in ways that I did not like. So once I found XeroLinux, which was extremely educational, I made it my mission to build my own distro. Thanks to XeroLinux. If it weren't for XeroLinux, XeroLinux wouldn't have ever been a thing. Necessity is the mother of all creation. I 100% believe in that saying, and that's what got me to create XeroLinux. I had requirements that were not met by any distro out there, so I decided to create my own. There you go. That's the origin story of XeroLinux. Question number 3. Do you play any video games? If so, what are some of your favorites? Well, good question. But if you know me from day one, you would know that I don't game. I haven't gamed in a long time. So I'm too busy taking care of my mental health and working on XeroLinux. But to answer the question, if I were to game, or when I used to game, I used to play the Diablo series, God of War, and Doom. That's it. That's all I used to play, and I would ever play again. Those are the types of games that I like. Not types, those are the games that I like. Whenever there's a new version, I download it and play it for a bit. Either I finish it or I don't. It depends on how busy I am with my health and XeroLinux. Very simple question to answer, not very difficult. Question 4. What initially got you into it? What got me into Linux initially? Let me remember. I used to work for Apple back then when I got introduced to Linux. It was back in 2018, 2019. I got bored with, back then I was on Windows 10, I think. Yeah, I was on Windows 10 and Apple for doing work for Apple. But I got bored with Windows crashing, having to reboot, blue screens, updates not going right, freezing, and so on and so forth. You know the story. But Windows 10 is still more stable than Windows 11, don't get me wrong, but still Windows 10 had its issues. And by using macOS, it was boring. It was too flat, feature-wise. It was too flat. Limiting what you can and cannot do with the File Explorer? Really? Sounds like GNOME, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm not gonna get into that, but suffice it to say that Apple was not scratching that itch that I had for something more fun, more adventurous, and more educational. Someone mentioned something called Linux, and I kept pronouncing it Linux, until they corrected me. But yeah, I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. I had a laptop sitting around, not doing anything, so I was like, I'll try it on that thing. And what did I try first? I think it was either Mint or Ubuntu. I don't remember because that period is a blur, but suffice it to say that I didn't like it. Yeah, surprising from a distro maintainer, right? Yeah, I didn't like it. Ubuntu was too closed, I couldn't do anything, and if I remember correctly, it detected when I selected Lebanon as my location. I was in Ireland, I know, but force of habit, I selected Lebanon. It kept prompting me to install fonts and locales and things. Every time I clicked OK, something would happen, and then boom, it crashed altogether. Same happened with Mint, since Mint is based on Ubuntu, so crash. I was like, I'm going back to Windows. I went back to Windows for a short period of time, and then I was like, I'll give Linux another try. So I did, but this time I installed Manjaro KDE. Boy, was that the best decision I ever made. Now, I know the issues surrounding Manjaro, but that was the distro that made me fall in love with KDE. I kept it. I stayed on Manjaro KDE until I came back to Lebanon after the explosion in 2020, the port explosion. And in case you don't know what it is, you can search it up on YouTube. I'm not going to talk about it. But when I came back home, it was Manjaro, then XeroLinux. That's it. Then XeroLinux, then XeroLinux. Question 5. Is there anything you wish you could change without user backlash? Now, I need to read what I wrote here because I wrote it quite a while ago. And I don't want to say the wrong things because that's a very sensitive question. And of course, it's going to introduce backlash in the comments. So that goes without saying. But I'm going to answer it anyway. I'm going to read it off my script so I don't forget anything. Yeah, for sure. The only thing I would change would be the quality of the Linux/FOSS community. Stop the elitism, the condescending tone, and hate. Because right now, one cannot ask a question without being talked down to, as if one is supposed to know everything coming in. I see this happen a lot with a simple, "My system won't boot. Why?" being answered in such a way like, "If you can't get it to boot, then you are ignorant. Read the wiki." Or, "You are using it wrong. You are using the wrong DE or WM. Use what I use. It's the best thing since sliced bread." Or, the one that I hate the most, "You are using it wrong. It works on my machine. Skill issue." Sometimes I feel ashamed. Yes, that's how bad it is. Sometimes I feel ashamed to be part of such a retarded system. Yep, I call it a retarded system. Not that all communities are retarded, don't get me wrong. There are some great communities out there run by great people and more mature people. But I have the feeling nowadays that most communities that are popping up left and right are run by teenagers. Not that they are, but that's the feeling I get. Like, I'll give you an example. The CacheOS server on Discord. It's not the fault of the developers. I'm not blaming the developers. It's not their fault. The developers are too busy working on CacheOS. But I'm talking about the Discord server. Whoever is running the Discord server. If you go to the CacheOS Discord server, you're gonna be met with condescending tones, like, "You are worthless, useless, you shouldn't be touching Linux because you are asking stupid questions, you shouldn't be here." I know a lot of people who joined the CacheOS server only to leave 15 minutes later because they couldn't tolerate the condescending tone and the talking down to, the "you are an idiot," what I mentioned earlier. That's just an example. So I'm lucky, I'm just gonna tell you this also, that I'm lucky that the XeroLinux community server is free of all that. It only has a few hundred people on there. We don't care about quantity, we care about quality. And I'm thankful to say that we got none of that over there. If we don't know something, we just let the user know very politely that we don't have the answer, to wait for someone who does. That's why I'm happy with our community server. But yeah, that's the only thing I would change. No more elitism, hate, condescending tones in the communities. Be more welcoming, help the users even with stupid questions. To me, there is no such thing as a stupid question. If a question is being asked, it's because the user doesn't know any better. We should be mature and answer that question no matter how simple it is. Because yes, not everyone knows Linux. Not everyone is knowledgeable enough to understand anything that is related to Linux. Because guess what? Linux is not Windows or is not Mac OS. It's a lot of manual work. So you learn, you apply. Not everyone knows how to do that. So that's the thing that I would change. Question number 6. It's a little bit personal, but I'll try my best to answer that one. What is your daily life like in Lebanon? It begins by me getting up, checking if power is generator or normal government power. If it's generator, I just make my coffee, start my day, and turn everything that shouldn't be turned on off, and sit on my computer with my coffee in my hand and begin work until lunchtime. But if it is government power, then I turn on the hot water for an hour, just check any updates, if there are any updates on the XeroLinux community server. If not, I just have my breakfast, my coffee on the balcony if the weather is good, take a shower, go walk for 45 minutes up to an hour if the day is good. Again, if it's raining, I won't walk. And then come back, prepare lunch with my dad usually, but now I'm alone because he's visiting my brother abroad. So yeah, and then after lunch, after preparing lunch with my dad, we have lunch, and then I go walk again if I can. But after that, I come back, and then continue work on XeroLinux. Managing the dev team, we now have a dev team. 2 Rust developers helping me create nice and useful tools for XeroLinux. Coming up with new ideas. Also, I come up with ideas, share it with the dev team, see if it's feasible, if they're feasible, and managing a dev team, finding bugs to fix on XeroLinux, testing it in a VM, testing it on my laptop, on my 2 laptops, see if any bugs creep up in Calamares, in the desktop config, anywhere that I can test. We don't have testers, and to be honest, I don't want a lot of testers. Maybe 1 or 2 testers would be welcome, but not too many, because I cannot manage too many. If it becomes too many people, I feel overwhelmed. It's an issue. It's a mental issue I have. I'm working on it. I also work on the websites, making sure they function, update the wiki, because the wiki is always updated with every release, so it reflects the latest releases. If I have any tools that I created, add a wiki page for those tools, so people know how to use them, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. And then, chat with the community, with the XeroLinux community, chat it up, have fun, share memes, talk about future plans, share ideas, stuff like that. That usually goes on for 5, maybe 8 hours after lunch, and then during the last part of the day, I just binge YouTube. What kind of YouTube? Linux-based YouTube, of course, and a little bit of hardware, but mostly Linux, because I like to get inspired, like check what this distro is up to, that project is up to, and see if I can create something similar and to include on XeroLinux. And then when I'm in bed, once I'm in bed, then it's doom scrolling. Doom scrolling on YouTube. I don't have TikTok. I don't care for TikTok. And selective YouTube. Linux, hardware, cars, nature, sometimes music, stuff like that. I doom scroll until I fall asleep, and that's it. And rebelote, as they say in French, rinse and repeat. But in order for it not to feel too repetitive, I vary things. Instead of doing this in the beginning, I move it to the middle of the day. And what I used to do in the middle of the day, I move it to the beginning of the day. I vary it on a daily basis, so it doesn't feel repetitive, because we all fell victim, I guess, to routine. I don't like it to feel like a routine. If I do it like as if it was a routine and repetitive, same thing, that's what killed me when I was working for Apple. It was repetitive every day. I couldn't do it. So in order to survive all this, I just vary it every day. Sometimes I add something new, like instead of sitting binge watching YouTube at night, I go see friends. I go out with friends, have a drink or 2 or 5, but you know what I mean. So I add in a few things here and there from time to time, just so it doesn't feel repetitive or as like a routine. Anyway, those are the questions that were asked. Thank you for asking them. And if you like this type of video and you want me to do it more, ask me anything. I'll do it as a monthly thing, maybe, or bi-monthly thing. Please let me know in the comments below. With that being said, that's it. That's all she wrote. So if you want to support the project financially, links in the description below, either Ko-Fi or fundraiser. Of course, as you can see in the thing below, thanks to all who donated, we have surpassed this month's fundraiser. Thanks to everyone who donated. Awesome. We reached that like 2 weeks ago. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, you can always continue to donate. Anything that's extra from this month will make it into next month. So instead of starting from scratch, we'll start from wherever extra this has. Thank you all. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next one.